We just got a massive Quest 3 update that comes with some big changes and awesome new features, as well as some crazy VR game news that you really don't want to miss. So let's dive right into it. And to start it off, with this new update, Meta and Nvidia have partnered up to now finally unlock the possibility to play GeForce Now on your Quest headsets in up to 90 frames per second. And if you somehow have missed it, GeForce Now is the cloud gaming service that makes it possible for you to play your PC games on a huge screen inside of virtual reality. But until now, the performance of this was sadly capped at 60 FPS. So with this new update, this is now finally a thing of the past. And of course, it is also good to keep in mind that just like with the alternatives, such as Xbox Cloud Gaming, these are at the moment still only limited to flat screen games. So while that means that you can play things like Halo on it, if you want to play those titles from Steam VR, such as Half-Life Alyx, then you will sadly still need a buff gaming PC to do this. But while on the topic of better performance, Meta also released a huge upgrade for the Quest headsets, which is a feature that is known as FrameSync. And simply put, with the implementation of this, it will actually improve your overall gameplay in 3 different ways. And those are better stable frame pacing, fewer still frames, and lower motion to photon latency. And in less technical terms, this basically means that your overall experience will be a lot smoother on your Quest headset. Although, not all news was as positive, because besides all these upgrades, Meta also shut down one of the biggest sources of pirated VR games. And as some of you might know, this refers to the popular app known as the Rookie Sideloader. But while the app itself was quite similar to something like SideQuest, since it allowed users to browse a library of content and even sideload some APKs, the problem here was that the Rookie version also had a bunch of paid titles that you could download here for free. Although, the final shutdown was mainly because they recently uploaded the popular game known as Beat Saber to their free-to-play list. However, Meta didn't stop there, because besides taking down some VR pirates, they also announced the shutdown of their very own social VR platform known as Horizon Worlds. And this final decision came after Mark Zuckerberg has tried to put billions upon billions of dollars into Horizon Worlds in the hopes that it would eventually become the next big social VR chat. But sadly, even after all those funds, the actual good worlds that you could find in here could almost be counted on one hand. However though, while Horizon Worlds is supposed to be completely gone by June 2026, the CTO of Meta, known as Andrew Busword, did mention that you will still be able to visit some of these worlds inside of virtual reality, but that you won't be able to update them anymore or create any new worlds yourself. But besides all these software updates, we also had some absolutely insane VR game news that you really don't want to miss. However, before we get into that, let's first have a quick word from the company that made this video possible. Because none other than Cat VR, who are known for creating VR treadmills that look like they come straight out of Ready Player One, are once again taking virtual reality to the next level. Because while we are normally limited by the boundary system inside our VR experiences, it is Cat VR that has created these VR treadmills that let you run and jump without any limitation. And since their most recent version, which is known as the C2 Plus Enhanced, is compatible with every VR headset that you can think of, it is also often considered as the dream upgrade for any VR user. And they even go so far that it has things like haptic feedback built into it, as well as a vehicle hub, which will make it feel even more realistic when you're racing on a track or flying through the sky. And as a cherry on top, you can also use the code VRelity for a whopping $130 off on your entire purchase. So for those who are interested, I'll leave a link in the description below. And that gets us to the VR game news. And to directly start it off with one of the biggest announcements is the reveal of the upcoming PAYDAY, The Ace is High. Because this seems to finally bring the popular PAYDAY franchise to VR, but then in the form of a 4-player co-op action experience. And in it, you and your team will be fighting the so-called business titan that goes by the name of Warren Jupiter. And this you'll have to do by going on a bunch of missions that will take you from museums to banks to even some luxury penthouses. And the cool thing is that each player of your team will also have complete different abilities that you will all need to even finish the mission in general. So teamwork is really the way to success in this one. But next up, we had the release of a brand new game known as VMX. And this is a hardcore BMX and scooter simulator. So in it, you can expect to pull off some of the most insane flips and tricks that you might not even be able to do in real life. Although, since it makes use of your full controllers, it means that you will have to do these with your own body movements. So in that way, it is a lot more realistic than just pressing a simple button. And on launch, the game has 5 different maps and 3 different game modes to choose from that can all be played multiplayer. Although, do keep in mind that at the moment it is only available for PC VR. But luckily, a MetaQuest version is already in the making and shouldn't take too long anymore before it is released. But moving on. Next up, we got another brand new game known as Tavern's Takedown. And this is a chaotic physics-based VR beat-em up that feels kind of similar to something like Nightclub Simulator, but then in a medieval setting. And that means that instead of just your standard dungeon crawling, in here, you will have to fight your way through it with your very own fists. Although, the main fun of course comes from the unique VR interactions itself, because in it, you can basically use any random object that you see as a weapon. Then you get really creative sometimes in how you take down your targets. And that can go from a basic chair to even entire tables, or honestly anything that you can get your hands on. But don't think that this game is easy, because there are also some crazy boss encounters that will have you break a sweat if you aren't careful. And since this game is both available for the Quest and Steam VR, you will be able to play this no matter what VR headset you're running. So either way, like of course with all games in this video, I will also make sure to leave a link to them as well as a nice discount code down in the description below. So make sure not to miss out on that. But next up, we got the long-awaited title known as The Boys Trigger Warning. And yes, this is the faithful recreation of the highly intense superhero franchise that goes by the same name. But this time, you'll be playing as Lucas Costa, who has multiple superhero abilities that can go from X-ray vision to teleportation and even telekinesis. Although, while playing it, you will also quickly notice that this game is very brutal and definitely not meant for the younger audience. And while the art style and graphics kind of feel similar to something like Deadpool, the enemies that you will come across are sadly sometimes a bit too easy to take down. Now of course, for fans of the series, you will directly know what you're getting yourself into and you will probably have a great time while playing it. But for those not familiar with the franchise, you might want to check out a couple of gameplay videos before deciding to get it. But besides that, we also got a new free content update for the popular Shop and Stuff simulation game. And besides just adding in a bunch of new items, this time they also added in full voice acting for all their characters. And while talking about VR games, don't forget that Meta is holding some big discounts lately on some of their old school VR classic experiences, with a great example of this being their latest so-called It Is Spring sale. But if you have sadly missed that one, then you can always use the code VRelity on any VR game on the Quest store to get at least 10% discount on the total price. So make sure you don't miss out on that. But moving on, we had the big reveal of the upcoming open world VR game known as Compass. And probably the first thing that you've noticed is that this game has a very unique watercolor art style to it. And in this big open world, you'll be playing as a scout pilot that is flying around their upgradable cargo ship. But on top of that, you will also be using your grappling hooks to navigate to some hazardous floating islands, while also solving puzzles and gathering resources. So overall, this seems like your typical cozy VR game that will have you complete all its side missions while you're sinking hours upon hours into exploring its world. But that is not all, because besides just games, there are also a lot of big mistakes that you should never make with your Meta Quest 3 and Quest 3S. So click on the video that you see on screen right now to make sure you don't miss out on that. And of course, stay awesome.